Today we cover the worst kept secret of the best deck in Spiritforged, as well as what we think will have a breakout performance at the Chinese Regional Opens. All that and more on this week's episode of The Winning Point.
That is taking over my shirt.
Yeah.
And you got purple.
It's too good. I got purpled. My shirt rode the wind into this episode.
There's purple on my shirt too, but it looks kind of blue in this lighting. It is purple though.
I own a purple version of this shirt, but I wore it yesterday.
Color combo you can't have though. It's purple yellow.
True, but you can repeat it though, Charmer. You can repeat the purple shirt twice on The Winning Point episode 30. Really? Which, of course, as everyone knows, is the 31st episode that we've done because I'm an idiot and made an episode 0 like I always do. Me, of course, being Blevins, that is a Casanova, and way on over there is Charmer. We are here for The Winning Point episode number 30, talking some Riftbound. Yeah. How are y'all doing? How's it going, Cass?
Good. 30, like the number of cards I draw when I play purple decks right now. So that's really good,
Stack deck puts the cards into your hand. You don't technically draw them with stack deck, so you're
draw 30. All right, yeah. I mean that'll be our topic for later today. But no, I've been good. It's been fun playing the game. It was really nice watching just some events that people have been putting on. Cool initiative in Bologna with the proxy tournament that they did with. It was like over 300 players, which is crazy. So it's been a good time in Riftbound, continuing to test a bunch of stuff. See if anything beats purple. Who knows? Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I have only been testing, and it's been strictly online testing because other games, unfortunately, right now have been kind of like eating away at my time. There's a calling for Flesh and Blood this weekend that I am actually going to attend because it's within driving distance of me.
Nice.
And then I was originally like looking around for Bologna possibility stuff, but I am likely going to be doing a SWU event, Star Wars event that weekend. So now everything is just testing for kind of full steam ahead Vegas, assuming that I get in off the wait list. I say not knowing.
Hoping, yeah. Or side events, either way.
True.
Yeah, either way.
Win a bunch of the metal cards again. Well, who knows what they're going to do with those this time around, but
with the positive outlook, every card is metal. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure the prize will all be good, man.
I'm sure it'll be possible to get the cards. Yeah, I'm sure, but we'll talk more about that as we get closer and closer. So I know I teased that I was going to be playing Yasuo at a skirmish this weekend. I did not end up going to the skirmish. Sadly, just had too much stuff going on. I did play Yasuo at my Nexus night, and I did Rio the Nexus.
There you go.
And
fun deck.
Fun deck is fun. Deck is cool. Shout outs to friend of the channel Mo, whose deck guide on YouTube helped me get to a point where I'm like, oh, okay, I get what I'm supposed to do now. Got it. And also the deck list. So yeah, it was cool. There's a lot of cool things you can do with Yasuo that you can't really do with other decks, like have Teemo effectively get accelerate, which is not a normal thing. I'm like, why is Teemo in this deck? And it's like, oh yeah, you play him, he gets +3, and you move him in with Yasuo. I'm like, oh wait, I'm in here. This deck is actually cooking. I'm in.
Drop border at home.
Yeah, drop border at home.
Well, less restrictions, I guess.
I was gonna say it's in Yasuo. It's kind of better. Well, no, it's not. Well, it's definitely not.
Yeah,
better,
it's less restrictive. That's all. It's kind of neat. Yeah,
it's a cool card, cool deck, and weirdly enough, helped me with thinking about how to build decks in the future. Because it's like, yeah, there's no power cost in the early game because you need to get to like 8 or 10 so that you can do Yasuo Wombo combo. But we'll be talking about Wombo combos and all sorts of building up decks here in just a second. But Cass, I know we're going to be going into the Chinese co-streams this weekend, but you've got a little announcement, teaser, promo, spoiler.
Well, so Chinese co-stream is starting tonight with this episode going out, right?
Tonight in real time.
Tonight
Not
is in
our
you're
tonight.
watching this
Yeah.
right now. Tonight there
Your
should be a
tonight.
co-stream going on. It'll be the first one, and we have the playmats coming back, which is really exciting. I know we just didn't make enough of them for the victors for Vegas because y'all bought them all in the first like 45 minutes of that stream, and we're like, all right, our bad. We have to print more, so we figured out how to do that in a better way. So there's a lot more of them available, and then we've also added a Turn 'em Sideways mat and a Kaisa as the next art, debuting that art here on the winning point. So there should be plenty of these hopefully available for you, and they will be immediately going on sale as that first co-stream starts tonight. So if you're seeing this and you want one of these mats, tune back in it'll be 8 p.m. Central, should be when the co-stream starts, and we'll be watching all the exciting set 2 games, and we'll have the mats available for you to buy. And it should be a really good time.
Yeah, I just want to reminisce a little bit about about Vegas when we first put those up. We were talking about the link is not up yet in the first round when I was on, and I go, okay, so we'll be talking about this throughout the day. I come back for round 3 and they're already gone. Like literally didn't even get a chance to sell them on stream. They were just gone. So huge shout out to everyone who got one and supported. It was awesome.
We were like, is 50 okay? 50's probably okay. Like that, maybe it's too many. It might be too many mats, and then they're just gone. We're like, oh,
We'd
okay.
just like to say, you all overexceeded our expectations by about 5 times what we were predicting, and we are working together with our partners in the future to provide a better buying experience on the website. Actually, the buying experience on the website, from what I heard,
was fine, right?
Fine.
Yeah, there's
just wasn't enough.
Nothing particularly wrong with it, just not enough stock. So yeah, that should be back. It should be great. And the Kaisa looks amazing. Same artist as the Victor. He currently wants to be anonymous. I believe he's working on maybe an online alias as well. He doesn't have one, so it's not Blevins. I don't know what he's pointing at. But yeah, he just wants to be anonymous for now, and we'll see if he ends up letting us eventually advertise that he did it. But it's really cool to have some partner artists come in and do these, and he's done some great work on the Victor and the Kaisa.
Yeah, very excited, very, very excited for that. But Cass, we talked about the Chinese tournaments. We've talked a little bit about some other things with Spiritforged decks. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. It's purple good, purple maybe too good.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean let's tee it off with I had talked about there was this event in Bologna. Funny, Bologna is going to be where the big event is coming up, but there was another event in Bologna that happened this last weekend.
That was also a big event for what it's worth.
There was 340 players is what I've got here. 340 players playing with proxies for set 2 because they wanted to test set 2, have a big tournament.
Play in person.
And there's a hell of a lot of Draven. I mean, we don't have to sugarcoat it. It was a lot of Draven, but the winner of the tournament was playing a purple core that I think has been the worst kept secret in Riftbound right now. Every team saying they've got a secret deck. I'm blowing up your spot right now. I bet you it was just this purple core either in Draven or in some other deck, which is basically these called shots, the Seals of Discord, the purple Draven, Rasa, Scrap Heap, like that core of cards together, starting on Warrens, and you draw your whole deck. I mean, that's just what happens. Like, you are just able to draw your entire stack decks back in, the cult shots back in, or even just more Rossas, more of the battering rams, whatever you need to continue to like fully cycle through your deck and pick the exact cards you need for the scenario. And because of the seals and the fact that you're drawing your entire deck, you're actually not really killing all of your runes. If you are, you're probably either playing it kind of poorly, or you ended up in a spot where you were forced to go before you were able to set up, which is possible as well. But it really just doesn't it doesn't end up eating all your runes that frequently if you're playing properly throughout the course of the game. It's really crazy. You're just kind of putting way more might on the board than any other deck can. Even like the draw of something like a Rek'Sai would have been that you can flood the board better than other decks, and yet this like purple strategy is kind of just doing it better because they're just drawing the whole deck and then doing it, which is why, you know, side tangent, you've seen this like spell heavy Rek'Sai list be the way that Rek'Sai has been successful, because the other way to play it feels like it just kind of does this thing a little bit worse. It doesn't actually develop as much might, whereas that spell Rek'Sai at least kind of just plays to keep that board clear and then plays for value,
another thing,
which is kind of neat. Yeah, it's like it does something else, right, that this deck doesn't do. So yeah, I mean, this is what it is, right? In Draven, this looks broken. Of course, Battering Ram looks insane, as well as the addition that you get from being in red. You get the ability to ready your units when they come in with what is this card called? If I can get the full deck back up, Bushwhack. Yeah. You put that one copy.
I don't know why I knew the name of that card, but I did. I never know the name of cards.
You're drawing your whole deck, so you just kind of hold this Bushwhack in hand, and then on the turn that you want to really like go all in on the Battering Rams and the Rasas, you can just drop the Bushwhack and then send them all in if you need that ability to have stuff come in ready, which often you don't even need that to happen, but the fact is you have it. You're going to be ready. You're drawing your whole deck and discarding a bunch of stuff, so Fizz gets a lot of value in this version, which, you know, that seems quite strong to either, you know, grab your one of Falling Star, grab your one of Bushwhack if that's what you needed to grab, you know, whatever of these other one ofs you'd one or two ofs. It's really, really tough to deal with, and yeah, you can do this in any purple deck, right? Like Sivir can do this. You know, she just has the orange tools with this. Like you just have to. You can't really play that much orange power or whatever.
Time. Yeah.
You could play this. You could play this same shell in Ezreal, and then you have like some of the blue spells that go with it. You can play this same shell in Irelia, and then you add the boots, and you can just like make Rasa ready with ganking, and draw all your combat tricks. You can do this with Annie, and Annie just gets 2 runes ready at the start of turn. So you play a little bit more of the early spells and you use this as a finisher, right? Like you just still aggressively get on board early, and then you have this as a finisher where you're drawing your whole deck. You can play it in Jinx. Jinx actually gets a lot of support here and is a pretty reasonably strong deck because now instead you just have all this extra draw engine, but you can play even like cheaper and lower to the ground stuff still. And just kind of dump the hand and then keep drawing through, and then when you draw a card, it probably draws 2 cards, and then you keep going from there and playing out your whole hand. So yeah, you just any purple deck. I even think like MF Aurora can play this purple Ezreal to draw more cards, so that you always find the Aurora or you find the tools that you need. And so like even that deck can still find a lot of value here. So yeah, it goes crazy.
Yeah, this, you know, you said it was like the worst kept secret. This is very close to what I would describe as the core that I was playing in Irelia. Irelia is the deck I've been testing the most lately. I really enjoy the way that it plays. I like the addition of green, but I will admit, you know, when I started messing around with that deck, it was because I just love any excuse to play Nocturne. And so I was trying to do the reinforce trick with all of this card draw as well as Nocturne. And then it turned out that Nocturne was just like not good enough, too slow. So ended up cutting the reinforces and cutting the Nocturnes because they just got in the way. And I'd rather just run either more draw spells or more combat tricks. So, you know, again, you're already drawing your whole deck anyway, but cards like Discipline are still fantastic in green. You still want some counter spells. I love the boots. I'm glad you called that out. I think especially in the Irelia version, because you don't have to rely on the Bushwhack, but you can kind of be ready almost whenever you want. Yeah. It's fantastic. It's also a great way to get extra use out of those seals. If you're not paying the power costs early, you can kind of turn it into a pseudo accelerate. But the other thing, you know, they're in the list and you mentioned the power costs and whatever. Kind of the unsung hero, at least for my testing so far, has actually also been Treasure Hunter, because you really do like that gold when you don't find the early seals, especially for cards like Rebuke. I think cards like Rebuke are going to be so much more important as we start looking at set 2. Just because when you have these Rasas and you have these large units that likely don't just get, you know, eaten by a singularity or a single falling star or whatever anymore, you're going to need some sort of other answer, right? And Rebuke is one of the cleanest ones that I can think of right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, Rebuke is incredibly strong. Treasure Hunter is great. I think it's funny, you know, Blevins is, before we got into this, you were saying definitely recognizing the deck building, you get to play. You play a lot of none of the early power costs so that you can save it for late.
Yeah.
Well, Treasure Hunter just says never mind.
Just do
Treasure
whatever
Hunter.
you want.
Treasure Hunter is just like, oh, well, I'll just give you like these gold early, so now your early power cost stuff also doesn't deramp you, and you can kind of play towards the late game that you still wanted to play that has the power costs, which is definitely been. I think this is rightfully a 1 might unit. I think this would be the most insane thing ever if it was 2 might. Like the fact that it trades down is of course something that is not as good, but then you're like playing one of these decks with like Reaver's Row, and then you just put the Treasure Hunter on Reaver's Row, and then it just gives you another gold, and then
it's absolutely broken when that happens.
Yeah, so there's just like I feel like Purple is breaking a lot of the rules of Riftbound as far as we knew them for set 1, where it was like, if you want to play a strong card, you're gonna have to deramp. Well, Purple currently is kind of not really doing that because of the fact that they have Treasure Hunter, which is breaking that very frequently. We were told you're not supposed to be able to pitch stack, which is why they randomize recycling. When you draw your whole deck, you are pitch stacking in like basically sets of 2. And even then, Cold Shot is just 1 at a time, so you actually know exactly where it is. And then Stack Deck is 2, but you're drawing through your entire deck, so I find myself very frequently just memorizing my recycles and then knowing exactly what card I'm going to hit when I play these styles of decks. So I don't know if that's intentional. And that's the question I want to bring. Now is like, do you think Riot, when designing this set, was like, we want there to be a deck that is able to kind of draw through its entire deck, and that is something that we want Riftbound to be able to do? Or do you think this is maybe an oversight in this set, and this was not something that they realized was going to work so well altogether, and they just thought these were different draw engines, or like, oh, they would be too expensive to play all of these as far as power cost wise, and just didn't think it would work? I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are, because for me it feels like a bit of a mistake, because some of the other decks and other colors right now are still just playing like a guy with a keyword, and that's like the strong thing that they can do. And then Purple draws the entire deck and then has every answer that they need to have because they've drawn the entire deck and done so with card selection throughout, right? You're not just drawing the top cards, you're looking at cards and then determining which card is going to be good for you in that moment. What are you guys' thoughts?
It feels like we went from like early Magic, early Hearthstone, where it's like, I'm dating my references here again, as always. But like, 4 mana, 4/5 no abilities. Chillwind Yeti was just a good card that you could play. So nothing unfair about that guy. He was just a built-in 2-for-1 because his stats were good. And that's like, that's like the Master Yi motto. It's like, we got more stats than you can deal with, so you got to do 2 things instead of 1, and then I'll eventually be ahead in that exchange. And just playing like early game, early life cycle of a card game is fine. Like, and I've had a lot of fun with Origins. Like, it's felt
Origins
great,
and
all of the decks have felt like they are playing at least on the same playing field, right? Like, Kaisa or Annie or some of the other high tier decks are better than the other ones, but it's not like, oh man, you are playing a completely different game. This feels more like what my understanding of Yu-Gi-Oh is, which is very low for what it's worth. But my understanding of Yu-Gi-Oh is like, you tutor a bunch of cards, you get some sort of crazy combo, you present either a loop or an instant win or some sort of really heavily locked out game state that your opponent can't interact with, or is very powerful and excessively consistent because of the small deck sizes in Yu-Gi-Oh! And the fact that their resource system does not gate spells and some other types of cards. It's kind of what this feels like in a lot, what this shell feels like, where it's like, yeah, Called Shot just costs 0. Yes, you can pay a power, but again, the seals and all the other things you talked about.
Yeah, seal and then Ezreal reducing those.
Ezreal
right?
I mean, can we take a second to just say Ezreal? I mean, this is the coldest take in the world, but like gonna be the most expensive card in Spiritforged.
Yeah.
I mean, has to be, right? Good. Like base rarity card. Like, it's gotta. I can't imagine a card that's going to
Well,
be.
he's an epic, so it's going to be.
He's an epic, and
insanely
he's
high.
a 3 of epic, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the
Yeah,
decks
it's the new
that aren't
Kaisa
even just
Survivor,
as- yeah,
right?
It's
the new,
yeah. And I don't think that we'll make the mistake of having these other cute cards be more expensive than Kaisa or than Ezreal, like
Yeah.
we did with Kaisa for
No, I agree.
multiple months. I think, yeah, but no, it feels like we went from playing like, 4 mana 3/3s and healing solves to we're playing, Dredge and Storm and Reanimator.
So,
and it's like,
so Blevin, I'm not a
not
Magic
quite-
player. I'm not a Magic player.
You're
So
not
tell
quite
me
there.
if this
Hold
reference
on.
is bad. I'm just saying, did we go from Chillwind Yeti to Hogak in one set? Is that
No.
what? No?
I would
No, it's
argue
not?
no.
Okay,
No,
all right.
I
all right.
think so. My hot take, Blev,
Okay.
talk about your dated references. My hot take is that we went from like revised 4th edition, whatever, up until I would say like Ice Age or whatever when Buried Alive was printed. I think that actually might have been Mirage. So like basically we went to where we have a level of consistency now to do something powerful all the time that doesn't just like win you the game outright. So
right,
to me, it's like Buried Alive, Ashen Ghoul, Nether
Sure.
Shadow.
right. You just present a really
so-
strong, consistent engine that doesn't win
yes.
instantly because that's not how Riftbound
Yeah,
works. at
'cause-
least yet.
Because here's the interesting thing. I think that we're in a position where I don't think that they intended us to have this level of consistency this early, but I also think that it was something that they ultimately wanted to design for. Very similar to how, like, when I looked at set 1, I saw, okay, there's some really powerful stuff here. There's stuff that's on theme, and I can see where they can build on it. And then we just now get equipment in set 2. I think that the designers' desire for what this game looks like in their heads probably doesn't really fully start to take form until I'd say like set 4 or 5, right?
Yeah.
Because they probably have a bunch of stuff when they think about like how they intend, I'll put air quotes here, how they intend the game to be played. There's a level of complexity that you have to ease new players into, right?
Yes.
And we're also targeting an audience with the League of Legends crowd that is perhaps not used to playing card games. And so they might need their handheld a little bit more for the people that are just jumping in, or maybe they've played one other card game. And so you don't want to flood them because equipment, I think, is a great example, right? The gear that we got in set 1 was just gear that you would play and it would sit on the board. Now we have equipable items. You could argue, hey, that could have went in set 1, no problem. But the reality is they wanted to ease their players in. So I think this level of consistency is something that they wanted long term, but I don't think they wanted it by set 2. Similar to like the Victor thing, right? We said on an episode of this show in the past, hey, there's likely going to be at some point a version of Victor where they run 0 units. It's just all removal and they make, 1 cost guys. Same thing. I think they wanted that to exist. I don't think they wanted it by set 2.
Sure.
So it would not surprise me if sets 3 and 4 and whatever have additional counters for stuff like this, whether that is, remove from game effects where you can just get rid of something before having to deal with it over and over and over again. It would not surprise me if we get more, again, going to use a Magic term, but mill. So in this case, for this game, it'd be trashing something, more trash effects from, say, like top of deck, because we know that you get a point if you force a person to recycle. Not recycle like a rune or whatever, but recycle
the whole
their
deck.
Essentially, if they go to draw
burnout.
and there's nothing in their deck, they have to recycle it. But then, you, the player who forced that, you get a game point, right? So I would not be surprised if we see some of that pop up. I would also expect, more counter spells, just because that's one of the ways that you can slow down card draw. I do find it kind of funny that our first version of Mana Leak is also in purple. So some of the mirrors might start tacking that in at some point, or other weird stuff. But yeah, I think that we're in a weird spot where ultimately I feel like they wanted this to be a pattern of play because, let's be honest, it's fun. One of the best things you can do in a card game is to draw cards. Everyone loves to draw cards.
Game actions, yeah.
I just don't think that they expected it to be this explosive or easy by set 2.
Yeah. And okay, so let's go from there and let's talk about some of the counterplay that exists in the game already, right? Because it's not like there's zero in the game.
Oh, there's definitely counterplay.
Because the counterplay in the sense that like these boards are big, and there's a lot of units, but it's not like they're each these massive giant things. It's like 6 dies to Singularity, right? So Singularity can take out 2 Rossas, right? You get 2 of them down. Now that's going to take the majority of your turn, and if they played 3 Rossas and 2 Battering Rams, like that's that's a little bit much, right? 1 Singularity isn't going to do it, right? Kaisa is still going to be around, can keep the board clear all game, and then when they go for the big turn, you can respond with like a Cathian Rain or conquer both in Time Warp and win the game. So there's definitely some like answers in that place. The problem being that Hard Bargain can blow you out, right? That's something that you have to look at with these big spells when you're trying to cast it. Is to get around it, the purple player does have to actually tap below their ability to Hard Bargain you, which is I guess another struggle. But then also in purple, they also have an answer with Downwell. If like when they go for the big Rasa turn, they actually spend a lot of the runes, which I am saying. Oftentimes, you're not actually recycling that many runes because you have all 3 seals on the board already. But yeah, if they're going through a lot of their runes, you can downwell everything back to the hand and reset the board state. Other than that, I mean, it's a little bleak. There's also stupid sexy forge workers. You can put 4 cards from the trash back into the opponent's deck a couple of times a game, and that can really help staunch the bleeding as far as Rasa getting online. Doesn't really help you with a lot of the other fact that they're just drawing through the entire deck and crafting a really strong hand, but you can slow down the Rasas in that way, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. I think of it in a couple of ways. I think that they're like to what you were saying, Charmer, like they want to ease new players into this. And I think to answer the question of like, was this intended by Riot to be like, do we think that the designers look at this deck and like this style of deck, this play pattern and think, oh, they nailed it. This is what we wanted. Yeah. This is Riftbound. This is what we wanted. I would probably lean towards no. At least for right now.
So for set 2, sure, but
yes, possibly. I think I'm being optimistic and thinking that I have no clue what they want Riftbound to look like, and that it will be a pleasant surprise in like every set. Like that's how I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to keep the like it's not
the magic just alive.
Literally.
yeah.
Like because that is super fun to me. Like this is fun. Like seeing this type of deck pop up is actually really awesome for me. The implications of it I'll deal with later, but like it's really fun to see that this type of creativity, ingenuity, like pushing the boundaries. Like we always knew competitive players are going to push the boundaries of the cards that we're given, no matter what. Doesn't matter. Like we're going to try to do the broken thing every single time and see if it's good. And in this case, it seems as though it is. I do think that there's a lot of different, not even super creative angles that we've not explored in Riftbound, like more reaction speed stuff. There is like a lot of action speed cards. There's obviously some reactions, but most of them are like a counter spell or a pump spell. There's not like a lot of there's not at least a lot of gear. There might not even be any. I didn't check before making this statement of gears that have a reaction speed ability besides like seals, right? So it's like, could you have almost like a prison style or a death and taxes style card that just sits in play and says reaction, what is it called? Is it banish 3 cards from the trash or something like that, like the forge workers, but at reaction speed that just sits there and you can sack it to do that. All of a sudden, like you're playing this game of like, I've got this in play, go ahead and try. Or even just like, rest in peace, Ley Line of the Void, any of these like trash just gets banished instead now. All of a sudden Rasa just doesn't work.
So for me personally, I hate things that are almost like a full trump card. Like I've never been a Leyline fan or a Tormod's Crypt fan. Again, I'm going to date myself with all my stuff, but for me, stuff that
Card
shuts down
counters.
like an entire archetype is no fun, because then your games kind of become a like, well, if I draw the thing, I win. If I don't, I lose. And it just
Or
feels
did I
really
guess the
binary and
metagame
uninteresting.
correctly, and if I'm wrong,
So
I just lose.
I would prefer either stuff like you said, where it's like, 1 to 3 cards or whatever, or counterplay in the form of, again, things we've already seen in other games. You might have something where it's like it's rebuke, but instead it bounces every card that has the same name, right? So now you as the Ezreal player, or as the Irelia player, or as the Draven player, you have to make that decision of, do I play multiple Rasas and get blown out, or do I play around it, right? Stuff like that. I would rather see stuff where you offer a pathway, but there is still interplay between the two players on how they navigate it.
I
as
do
far as
think
like existing
narrow
stuff
cards
goes,
like that are really cool. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
As far as existing stuff goes, again, just kind of talking about things like, I'm glad you mentioned Downwell. To me, it'll forever be sunk cost in my head. That's just what I think of it as. But I think, again, maybe this is just my bias as somebody who's been doing the Irelia testing, but even stuff like Thwonk, I think, is in a pretty good spot, because being able to stun multiple attackers buys you time. I think that at least for set 2, what you're going to see for counterplay, if you're not playing purple, or even some of the decks that are playing purple, will really just be not how do I answer the problem, how do I stall the problem? How do I gain that tempo advantage of, hey, you were looking to double conquer. If I can stop one of them, then the points are off and maybe I come back or whatever.
Yeah.
I still think even some of the faster decks like Annie and, again, if we're not talking about like best of prizing, or, we're including those set 1 legends, I think Teemo is really scary right now too. He can run the exact same purple core, but there's a lot of really neat things that he can do with like the hidden tricks, and he can play very fast, almost like an Annie. I think he still has the same problem he had in set 1, which is if you lose the matchup. And by matchup, I mean the matchmaking matchup. And you end up playing against a Kaisa, you're going to have a hard time, because that's a problem. But
no, you're right, Trevor. He can play the same purple core, and he can play Consult for 1 energy.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, Teemo looks scary when I look at what you have to play around even, right? Because like in this Draven list that we were looking at it before, we saw in the sideboard cards like Switcheroo, which again, I still think is a fantastic card. And now when Teemo can do that for energy as well.
Yeah, that's scary. I think to go back to the like, is this what the designers intended? I'll give you a bit of an anecdote. Well, it's literally just an anecdote that I had playing an unoptimized version of this Draven deck that we saw at one of the Chinese city challenges a couple of weeks ago. It had the Nocturnes in there, but for the most part was trying to do the same thing. Rasa, Battering Ram, all the draw spells, Ezreal, Nocturne. It probably had Fizz in it, and then it had the normal Draven cards. Not Draven's biggest fan, overzealous fan, and Fight or Flight, all that. I played that deck, and if you saw me play that deck, you would not be like, oh, this is the most broken thing in the game, we need to think about banning it. You'd be like, oh, okay, that's kind of cute what you tried to do there. You got 1 4 might unit and 1 5 might unit out on turn 3. Congratulations, buddy, you got there. So to circle it back, it's like when you think about the process for the design of these sets, right? They are looking through a lot of different lenses for these cards. It is not, okay, how does this deck compete at the highest possible level? They do bring people in there that we know publicly that have gone in and helped test some of the cards, but it's not like, okay, we're going to have a mini pro tour here and we're going to see what the best Spiritforged deck is, and then we're going to change and design around that. That's just not what happens, right? So if you and for what it's worth, I know the devs of the game way better at the game than I am. So don't take my like fumbling of this deck, take it with a grain of salt. But if you looked at it and were like, oh, this is just a little bit clunky, it's a little bit cute, you're not putting in dozens of hours on this specific deck, and also you found this specific deck, like all these things need to align to be like, oh, we have this deck on our radar, we know that this core will get you through your deck. Like they're not necessarily testing all of these cards together at the level that people are testing for Bologna and for Vegas, right? So it I won't say easily, but it very well could have been looked over, or just like when I first saw this deck, I'm like, oh, this is a cute gimmick. And then I played it and I'm like, oh, this is a cute gimmick. And I didn't have someone that is a master of the deck or has played it a lot or understands the cards better than me be like, oh, no. You need to play a regular game for a few turns. Then once you realize your spot, you go off and then you win in 2 turns, like with no variability. It's like, oh, that's a different way to play the deck than what I did.
The other thing that sometimes happens during development is you'll have situations where the developers don't think a deck is good because whatever their pet deck was in development is just really good against it, right? Like it wouldn't surprise me if this is a really strong deck, but maybe, a couple of years down the line, we hear some fun story about how, the reason purple was unchecked was because the devs were playing Ornnzilla, right? Where they play an Ornn that's like got 30 might. And they're like, I don't care if you get 3 Rasas, my one guy's still bigger and you'll never touch him. Yeah. So, who knows? There might be some spice or something floating around that the devs have already kind of figured out as the counter for this. Yeah. Maybe they're on some sort of like time warp combo where they're like, that's cute, you have all that might, I'm just going to win from 4, whatever. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I think that like all things, it's early. However, there's no doubt that this does powerful things. And like Cass said, it was kind of like the worst kept secret. We were saying in set 1, hey, purple's really powerful. Purple blue in particular, just because of all of the draw that was in that. And then purple just went ahead and said, I don't even need blue. I got even more draw with called shot and all of these other things, right? The Fizz, the Ezreal. So I'm not surprised to see it do well.
So we'll see. I'm very excited for the Chinese coast, for the Chinese coast streams, but the Chinese tournaments in general, because we've had a full cycle of a set, right? We saw initial online tournaments in NA or English speaking regions. Then we saw sort of the circuit of Chinese tournaments, the city challenges. Those brought some decks. It really kind of was like, oh, Kaisa Yi. People really like that. And then we saw a few decks here and there. And then the, the 4 events essentially, or was it 3? I don't remember. But
it was 4 and then a 5th with the Shanghai National.
Right. Yeah. So the big Chinese events happen, and all of a sudden we see a meta established, a reaction to that meta, but changed in a different way than we see changed in NA, right? Like we saw, it was still Kaisa Yi pretty much the whole way, literally the whole way. But it was variations on Kaisa and Yi. So is it going to be like, are we going to see that same thing where it's like, oh, I'm just making things up here, Draven, Aurelia, Kaisa, like, is it going to be that? And then we'll see a reaction to that where the Draven decks change up and so does the Kaisa deck. But like, are we going to see that? Or are we going to see with, 12 new legends, are we going to see more innovation across decks rather than just optimizing and changing the, initial starting decks? I don't know. We've only gone through it once. This will be the second time. It's really
let's talk about it. We got them coming up. So starting tonight, as of you watching, we have the very first one, and I wanna talk about. I mean, I guess Draven versus Kaisa. We saw how prevalent Kaisa was alongside Yi in this tournament. It was about, I would say, about average, like what, 30%. I could have went and pulled these stats. I don't know why I didn't, but it was about 30%. As far as representation over the course of time. So some of the events it was higher, some events it was lower, but about 30% of players in the room at any given time were going to be on the Kaisa deck. Do we think Draven beats this? Do we think Draven is going to be less than this? And then from there, we'll talk about what other decks we think could join Draven. My opinion is Draven will beat this. Draven will be higher represented than Kaisa was even at her peak in the Chinese tournaments.
I agree. I would wager that I don't know which event, but at one of the events, Draven will cross the 40% mark. If I had to pick, I'd say 43, but
You think 43% was
yep,
where that's where it peak?
I think that would be like potential peak. And I say that just because if Draven does well in the early event, I could see some people try to bandwagon it thinking like, hey, this is clearly the best deck. I think Draven is very good and it's very competitive, but I do also think that it is much like Kai'Sa was in set one. It's just the best, for lack of a better way to describe it, good stuff deck, right? Like you can do well with Draven just by going like, hey, look, this is a strong card, let's throw it in. And we've seen some of those versions of Draven where they've just got like, 12 4-drops or whatever because they were like, hey, this is a good 4-drop, so I'm gonna include it, and they still do fine. So it wouldn't surprise me if just like that low barrier to entry, ease of picking the deck up, a lot of the stuff, if you were a Kai'Sa player but you want to do something new, a lot of that stuff translates well to Draven. So the stars are kind of aligning to where I could see it be, in my opinion, over-represented. I think that it's a good deck, but I don't think it warrants a 40% meta share.
Okay.
But it would not surprise me if it hit that.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Love.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, it's the same reason that we saw Kai'Sa. Well, it's slightly different because I think the Kai'Sa conversation was, I'm a top level player from insert name of other game. Friends who play Riftbound, what deck should I play? You're telling that player Kai'Sa every time, because if you understand card games, you played Magic or Flesh and Blood or any other card game at a high level, like you will understand what Kai'Sa is doing for the most part. Like, it's not a hard concept to get. You are playing aggressively. You've got a bunch of spells that kill your opponent's units. Keep those off the board. Control the game. Lather, rinse, repeat. Right? Like, it's not a hard concept to get. Draven, I can't remember where I heard this first, so I'm sorry for not attributing this properly. But Draven is the jundiest Jund deck of all time. Like,
it's so funny. I was waiting to say that when you started talking. I was like, Draven is just Jund. That was literally Jund. What I was thinking. It's just Jund.
It's just hey, all of your cards are now 2-for-1s because now you push back with Fight or Flight, and now you draw a card. So like. And that's the like quote unquote fair version of Draven that we saw dominating before even this version was sort of coming out, like the one that had all the Kai'Sas and stuff. But like that iteration has already started to happen. It's like, oh, Draven turns all of his kill and push and bounce spells into draw spells. Why am I playing another 4-drop in my deck that just draws cards and I have to leave vulnerable at a base when I can just play more spells? So Kai'Sa's gone. I haven't seen a Rel in a deck in quite some time, but we knew that sort of optimization.
Yeah, I mean, we said this last week, right? Where it was like the 4-drops need to be cut down a little bit.
Why are we doing this? Like,
and guess what? I mean, like you look at any of the high-performing Draven decks now, and they've trimmed quite a few 4-drops. I mean, oftentimes even just playing the single champs on Draven. So.
Yeah, which we knew would happen, but people like to experiment at the beginning, and that's great.
Oh, that's fine.
In terms of representation, I think we're going to see a lot of Draven. I think it will it probably will exceed Kai'Sa at least at some point. Her all-time high, I think Draven will beat that, if only because there are multiple legitimate ways that are drastically different to play him. You can play this Miracle Draven, and if there is a counter to it, or at least a good matchup table into that version of Draven, then we'll see other decks pop up, and then what I'm just going to call Jund Draven, just fair, like play dudes, make good exchanges, draw cards. Draven, like that deck is still going to be very good.
It is good,
regardless of the prevalence of the busted combo version or Miracle Draven or whatever you want to call it. The other version of Draven that is a drastically different style of deck, but happens to run a lot of the same core cards and the same legend, is all going to be lumped into the same piece of that pie. So I think like, is Miracle Draven going to have 20% and then also Jund Draven going to have 20%? I don't hate like, I mean, I do hate it kind of, but I don't think that that's unreasonable.
I think of the Miracle version as piloted clumsily. The other version of Draven kind of eats it up because it'll have like
Yes.
higher might values, and so it can
Mhm.
get like 2-for-1, 3-for-1 trades, or like 2-for-0 trades in some circumstances, and then still like gain control of the battlefield and find a lot of wins in that way. So I think clumsy pilot on Miracles can do a lot worse.
Yep.
But when the best players are doing it, I think it is generally the superior deck. I think my other big take is I actually think that Draven is stronger than Kai'Sa ever was, as far as like in comparison as far as decks, but there is like the rest of the purple decks can use most of this core, and I think there are other options that you can go for that will potentially attract away some of the audience. And then also Kai'Sa got stronger in this set than she was previously. And she's one of the decks that can run enough tools that hit some of these big important units, like early game having Falling Star to deal with either the Draven or the Ezreal, or like a Overzealous Fan plus an Ezreal with a Falling Star, right? And then later on having things like Singularity or a Cathian Rain. As long as you can get around the hard bargains, there's still kind of this room for you to actually have removal and deal with some of the rest of the stuff. So I think that deck will also be popular. And the question also becomes in China, like, what do they decide to play? We saw they're very happy to go towards the best deck or the best two decks, and shy away from trying to break that meta and play, like, bring, a level 3 deck or a level 2 deck. And so I do think because of that, we're going to see China kind of stick with Draven and maybe innovate Draven to beat other Dravens, or innovate Kai'Sa to beat Draven or Aurelia to beat Draven, whichever decks that are still kind of in that top echelon. I think for China, as far as what I've seen so far, city challenges, word on the grapevine, we're going to see a lot of Draven, of course. We're going to see Aurelia. We're going to see Kai'Sa. And then we'll still see Victor, partially because it's a great budget option. And then secondly, people still just like that removal option. I think there'll probably still be some Yi around. I know Orange in general is still more popular in China just as a whole, like this orange-green combo. I've even heard of Jax decks in China, and I've heard of nobody in the West playing Jax. So we'll have to see kind of if there's any of these, like,
Forgot he was in the set, to be honest.
One decks that are like very underrepresented in the West and in the online tournaments, and not having that much success in city challenges, to be clear. But at least rumblings of people, experimenting with it and playing it a lot more in China than I've heard around in the West, and having good success with it, apparently.
There's one other, I think, interesting story here as we talk about the potential meta differences between China and the West. And for me, it's Annie. And the reason I say that is because earlier, Cassie, you had mentioned that the Jund Draven can still beat what we'll call the Miracle Draven if that is piloted a little clumsy or has a slow start. I think Annie is a deck that can absolutely punish the deck if it's either got a poor pilot or has a poor start. And that has almost no presence in China, even after performing incredibly well in the West. And so one of the things that could maybe keep the growth in terms of, market share, if you will, of the Draven deck in check is Annie, but it's kind of non-existent over there.
Totally
I've not
possible
seen
as
a
another
lot.
deck that could pop up.
Yeah. I'm also like, what happened to Sneaky Deckhand? What if it seems like everyone moved, like, it's like, oh, new set's out. Let's see those cards. Okay, we'll build decks around that. And then just completely forget about arguably the best deck in set one. Like,
I think it often just says have a free combat win, Draven. Kill my Sneaky and take the point, and he can play like better cards overall. And it's not so much about rushing to 6 points and winning with Ride the Wind. There's way too much counterplay in the format with every purple deck having Fight or Flight and Rebuke at multiple copies in the main deck. There's just a lot of counterplay to Ride the Wind. So instead, it's not about rushing to 6 and winning. It's about control and crushing your opponent with board presence. And I think that's been the major difference on why we're not seeing Sneaky Deckhand. Doesn't mean that Sneaky Deckhand's not playable. Doesn't mean Annie can't try and make that kind of play possible. Now you don't have to draw as many Ride the Winds to make it work, because Fizz can just pull Ride the Wind as well. So that's another option that you get, and you could still look for Virad the Wind, setting her up a turn in advance or something, and having like Longsword up to protect her. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff at the wall here. This is not a deck I've really like tested much right now, but maybe there still is a way for you to race, and then you're ending the game before there's time for these like combo decks to actually establish that tight grip on the board. And so maybe you're onto something, but that's at least why I haven't seen Sneaky, at least like in these Draven lists. Like I wouldn't really see it as something that I
no, not in Draven. I'm
but
talking
just
about
in
like,
Annie, yeah,
just like in Annie, that style of deck. Because I think if I'm thinking about how like when the cards came out and like people's excitement for them, and then obviously that translates into deck building, it's like, oh, I see the card Treasure Hunter. Well, that card's obviously busted. Let's build around that. And all of a sudden, like when you are building that, it's like, well, that's not really that good in the old style of Annie deck because you didn't need the power. You just wanted to win. You only need a few power at key points in the game to end the game, right? So it's like, well, I mean, I'm not cutting Treasure Hunter from my aggressive purple deck. What are you kidding me? So all of a sudden you cut the sneaky deck hands and the deck looks very, very different. But like a way to combat either heavy control or heavy combo decks, it generally speaking is hyper aggression. What is the fastest possible way you can win in Riftbound right now from an aggressive deck? I don't know the answer to that, but I don't know that we've really seen that come out yet. Like I think a lot of decks are either trying to do a different thing, they're trying to control more, or they're doing the weird like Aurelia and Ornn are both doing this like protect the president type style of play where it's like, I've got a gigantic unkillable guy. My whole deck is making him big. You have to pay 1 billion runes to target my guy, and then I counter your spell anyway. Sneaky Deckhand kind of doesn't care about that when you're playing Ornn on turn 3 and I'm at 5 points or whatever, like.
I will also say this about just Annie in general. One of the things that I also think gets lost in the conversation about her is that the 2 runes that you have for interacting is a real thing. And I would be taking a long, hard look at any legend that is guaranteed to always have the resources up to play hard bargain like Annie does now in a meta where we're talking about these kind of tempo plays and things like that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Sneaky Deckhand is great. I think that there is room for Annie to do well. I just noticed that she was not popular in China in set 1.
Yeah.
We saw lots of success and popularity in the West, and now here we are set 2. And I would have expected a little rise in popularity, and we just haven't seen it.
Sold out. Where are you? Is Annie still a thing? Yours truly, Blevins. I want to know. I'm curious. Let us know in the comments what you think. What decks are you excited about in Spiritforged? What do you think is going to take down the first Chinese event that's coming up here later
Probably
tonight?
Draven.
Let us know. I mean, probably, but I'm less concerned with what deck physically wins the event and more like
what's their top 8 look like?
Decks, well, what's the top 8 look like, and what other decks are around trying to combat that? Because it's like China's general process has been, I'll just optimize the best deck and I'll play it better, which is a reasonable way to do it. We do it a bit differently here, and it's always interesting to see that. But let's move on here to our mailbag, of course, our favorite section of the show. This one comes from Charmquark 7514. Says this is a genuine question and not at all a moral judgment. Says, are you allowed to decide the winner of a match by agreeing to give the loser playmat / booster / money / whatever? Came up in a skirmish I judged, and I basically gave both the players a stern look not to discuss that thing right in front of me. Well, I've got 2 level 1 judges on the call with me right now, so take it away.
Okay, but this is basically just yes and no. Like, if people want to split the final of a skirmish and one person gets the playmat, one person gets prizing, and one person gets the buy, that's fine. They can split the final. If they agree to that, that's whatever. That's okay. People do it all the time in every single card game that's ever existed. Splitting is completely reasonable. Now, if let's say we're at the Houston regional and you're trying to play for a best of and you start offering money to people to concede to you so that you can get more wins, obviously bad.
No.
Or maybe not obviously, but yeah,
that is
no, you
a
absolutely
offense.
cannot do that. I think, since this was in the context of a skirmish, I assume it was more like the former, where it's like two players looking to maybe split the finals. Which, yeah, would be fine. I think any other kind of circumstances where you're not specifically like splitting a final or splitting something like that, no, you should not be allowing to decide the match by giving things away. Yeah.
So the only other time that I've seen any sort of split done, so I agree with you. Let me just start by saying that, Cass. Do not bribe your opponents. I think if you're at the finals where it's just you and them, and it's guaranteed you're both getting something, it's just kind of determining how much you want to give either way, that's fine. That being said, I've also been at events where there was a significant amount of prizing at, say, like top 8 and above. And in those situations, if one person said, like, is anyone interested in a split? Usually what the judges do is they do like a single round of an anonymous voting. And if it's unanimous, then everyone will split the top 8 or whatever, right? And if even one person says, like, no, I want to play it out, you play the round and you can revisit it at the top 4 and then again at the finals. So like I was at an event where in the top 8, 2 people wanted to play it out. And then when they got to the top 4 were fine with splitting. So everyone was happy. But you just don't want any situation where you feel like a person is being pressured to do something that they don't want to do. That's where it crosses the line.
Yep. You brought up needs to involve all the people, it needs to be unanimous. That's a big thing. Basically, if the remainder of the event in a top cut wants to prize split, needs to be unanimous. The other thing that does tie into the original question and touches on what Cass said as well. The only bargain is not the right word. The only things that can be discussed, generally speaking, I don't know the specific tournament rules for Riftbound, but this would be the case for Magic, are prizing within the tournament. So you can say, oh, do you want the buy and I'll take the playmat, or vice versa? Okay. You can't say, do you want the playmat plus $150 that I'm going to give you on top of it, or I'll give you the signature card or blah, blah, blah on top of it. Has to be stuff within the tournament, has to be the remainder of the tournament. So either the finalists, the top 4, the top 8, etc. And you can't bring other things in general, because again, it just adds a murky area. And I've seen, just again, from people who have not played card games for years and played tournaments for years, it creates, if you've never seen it happen before, it can be a bit weird. Like, people are like, well, there's a tournament, why aren't you playing the tournament? And if you are not of the crowd that has played hundreds of tournaments and just wants to go home, I can see.
Well, it's also just like recognizing you played hundreds of tournaments, and so you've seen, the variance go so many different ways, and you see a path where both you and your opponent get to leave very happy at the end of the day. Then you take that take that path, instead of one person feeling very bad after the game. And it's usually just because both players really want like one part of it, right? Like the buy and the playmat at skirmish is a great example. Like a lot of people want the buy, a lot of people want the playmat. Sometimes people don't actually care to have both, and they'd rather, especially after playing a 10-hour day, they'd rather have both players leave happy at the end of the day and then just split. Guarantee that they can get what they want. So yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on here to our last question here. This one is from Cammy 7535 says, why not just have smaller tournaments to play? Have smaller tournaments to have you play into a regional and get a guaranteed spot, follow up Pokemon or Magic do. So basically I guess they do this in poker, right? It's like what do they call it? A satellite tournament? Yeah,
satellites or World Series qualifiers or whatever. But I'm over here laughing because the ones that they're thinking of is what this is. These are the smaller. These are regional qualifiers. They are not the regional themselves. This is like the Magic qualifiers. Like they're already doing that. It's just they're still not big
There's
enough.
just
They
too
just
many
need
people who want to play.
Goes back to they just need to run more events.
Yeah. It actually just needs to be more. You're actually right. Honestly, Charmer's solution last week is probably like it is just correct. Like it has to just be more events. It's really the only option that they have to genuinely fix the problems that we have is to run more, like and a lot more at that, realistically, like significantly more, like potentially 2 per month type of situation, right, where it's like 1 in the US, 1 in Europe every single month type of business to really get us. And that might not even be enough. We might need more.
Like they did too good of a job where they made it so that none of these like regional qualifiers feel okay skipping. That's the biggest thing. It's like, oh, this feels like this feels like BlizzCon every time, and there's a tournament or MagicCon or whatever. Like, it feels like this big, awesome event that is really cool, has this like unique, amazing prizing that's worth lots of money, and it felt like, oh, well, I saw Houston. That was an absolutely spectacular event. Got to go to all the other ones, and then everyone thought the same thing because they did a really good job. I think Charmer hit the nail on the head. Like, it sounds negative, but like dilution of events so that like, oh yeah, like in Flesh and Blood, like you don't feel like you're missing out if you don't go to a like an RTN, right? Or what's the next level above RTN? I forget.
Battle Hardened, but they're
rebranding just like a BH.
Yeah, like you don't feel like, oh, there's a Battle Hardened on the other side of the country. Boy, do I feel like I really need to fly out to that. No, not really. You know, like if it's in your area, if you can drive to it, that's great. If not,
it's
gonna be a great event for the people that go. But I don't feel horrible that I didn't.
Stand by us last time having just tons of the Battle Hardened level events all over the country. So that people have this kind of like official event they can go drive to. Where Riot partners with like a local store, or local tournament organizer, and then puts on like that mini type of show. I mean, I would love for them to take some notes out of the LSS playbook as far as organized play. Absolutely. I think that, it's definitely would be good. And I think it'd be successful for Riftbound as well. I think if they could figure it out, because I think people do just want to go play.
Just do that, but iterate and improve. So have broadcast talent at each of the events. Preferably ones with years of experience who have passports and have worked internationally too. I may know a few.
And if you're looking for those people for Riftbound,
Derek Charmer, 5'9", can travel.
There are between 3 and 4 of them on the show every single episode.
All right.
But that is going to be it for this episode of The Winning Point. Remember, in just a few hours here later tonight, Chinese Coast streams are going to be starting right on this channel. So if you haven't already, please do hit the subscribe button to be notified when that co-stream goes live, and so you can get the awesome new playmats. I mean, come on, that new playmat is amazing. If you missed out on the Victor, I know a lot of people who have seen mine in person were like, oh, I wanted one, I couldn't get one. I'm like, sorry, pal. And I'm definitely not trading this one. Sorry. But got the ability to get those to you. So make sure you're jumping on the co-stream, and we will see you there. But for Casanova, for Charmer, for the whole Turn Sideways crew, I've been Blevins. We'll see you on the next one.